The Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 was the turning point for flip-style foldables in the US market. Its affordable price and its improved durability made the phone sell considerably well. But now for $200 US and almost 3 years later, how does the phone hold up in 2024?
The main selling point of the Z Flip 3 at launch was its ability to fold, along with that sweet price of $999 at launch. Comparing this with the original Galaxy Z Flip, which launched at $1380, the Flip 3 appealed to more people for its price. Its compact size appealed to many, and it's what drew me in to get this phone after using slab phones for almost my entire life. The hinge on my unit has been pretty solid, along with the screen. For the most part. More on that later. Everything on the phone suffered though, to make the phone fold. The cameras, the battery, and the thermals, the charging. But the people who bought the phone wanted it for one thing, the ability to fold. The Flip 3 launched with the Snapdragon 888 with 8 gigs of RAM, and it came in either 128 or 256 gigs of storage. At the time, this was the top of the top for phone specs, and honestly, I really haven't had any issues with the device slowing down or with any lag. The phone weighs 183 grams, which is on the lighter side, but this is made up by the fact that the phone sports a 22:9 aspect ratio, which makes it quite tall compared to most traditional slab phones. The inner display peaks at 1200 nits, which isn't anything to write home about, but it's serviceable in daylight. The panel is also a 120Hz 1080p LTPO display, which looks pretty good in my usage. The cover screen, on the other hand, is kinda just whatever. It handles basic tasks like checking notifications, responding, turning on the torch, and with good luck I can even run some apps on it. But when we compare this to other foldables like the Moto Razr 2019, it's quite small. On Geekbench 6, the Flip 3 scores 1512 on single core and 3712 on multi-core, and in GPU it scores 3942. Comparing this with the Pixel 6 Pro, that phone scored 1339 on single core and 2613 on multi-core, along with 6721 on GPU, which is not nearly as double, but it's close. Samsung also certifies the Flip 3 at IPX8, meaning it can survive splashes, but it isn't dust resistant for obvious reasons. I've already had my run-in with heavy rain, living in Vancouver, and the occasional splashes, but it's survived just fine. But I wouldn't bank on bringing this phone in the shower and having it last. One of the major areas that suffered on the Flip 3 was the battery. Since the Flip 3 is essentially a third generation foldable, it only had a 3300 mAh battery, and with degradation since the phone is almost 3 years old, it doesn't last long compared to other phones, like the Pixel 6 Pro which I reviewed last. My Flip 3 lasts between 2 to 4 hours depending on usage, and have resorted to lugging around a portable charger to get by. In more heavier scenarios like playing Pokemon Go, which is something I do, I bet the Flip 3 drain battery pretty quickly, in less than an hour, and this is pretty much a deal breaker that already makes this phone not a suitable daily driver for me. But again, if you're a lighter user, this phone may get you by day to day without any issues. The second major area that suffered with the Flip 3 were the cameras. Now, don't get me wrong, they're perfectly serviceable with its 12 megapixel main camera and 12 megapixel 0.5x ultra wide. And when zooming in on photos, it isn't the most detailed, but there's decent dynamic range, and I honestly really haven't had many complaints. For those pixel peepers though, or those who really care about quality, the Flip isn't the phone for you. There's many better options for around this price range, like the Pixel 6 series, 7 series, or some older iPhones. And even on the foldable front, there's considerably better, but you're paying a premium for them, like Oppo's foldables or the Z Flip 5. The selfie camera, on the other hand, I honestly wish it could have been better. Since the Flip screen is plastic, the front camera gets smudged very easily, and some of my selfies end up looking like oil pastel paintings than a clear selfie from a phone. The video is also fine, it's nothing to write home about, but it's something the Flip 5 had significantly improved at. One thing I'm really not keen on about the Z Flip camera is the front camera. It looks Horrible. This is the front-facing video on the Z Flip 3. This is at 4K 60 FPS, so Ultra HD 60 FPS. Looks pretty good. The dynamic range isn't the best, and I did clean the screen because, you know, the camera quality would look kind of bad otherwise, but yeah, this is what it looks like. Since the Flip 3 was released in 2021 and has already received an extension for software support by Samsung, it's going to receive Android 15 later this year, along with probably an additional year of security updates before being dropped in Samsung's update priority. Like what I said with my Pixel 6 Pro video, this doesn't inherently make the phone unusable since it's still receiving Android security updates, and the fact that Android app support remains considerably better than iOS app support after devices are dropped. The unit I have here is the Canadian model, which like the US model kills the ability to bootloader unlock, meaning that flashing a custom ROM is practically unviable. This makes Android 15 the last version that my Flip 3 will ever get, which again, isn't a huge deal breaker, but you know, it sucks for those who care about the longevity of their devices. To be fair though, I really don't know how ASOP would handle the cover screen since even Motorola uses a pretty custom hardware implementation for their cover displays on the Moto Razr 2019. Now let's talk about the ugly. At the end of the day, since the Flip 3 is a folding phone, the screen's durability is compromised. Of course there's a layer of UTG glass alongside the plastic layers on top that allow the phone to fold. But this has brought up some durability issues where the screen cracks down the hinge, where it's more commonly known as stress cracks, or the screen has faults where the phone doesn't always wake up from sleep, or the screen flickers when folding. Along with the screen and hinge issues that various users reported, one of the major complaints of the phone that I touched on previously was the battery, and this is in part due to the small capacity, but also due to the Snapdragon 888's inefficiency. The 888 had many occasions where I was charging, the phone got very hot, and it seemed like the best for the battery, though your mileage may vary. With the bad battery, the charging was also compromised on the Flip 3 with only 15-watt wired charging and 10-watt wireless charging, and in some cases it can take my Flip 3 more than an hour and a half to charge. So is the Z Flip 3 worth it to buy today in 2024? In my honest opinion, no, not really. So the Z Flip 3 really hasn't aged that gracefully. The issues with the Snapdragon 888, the bad battery, the mega cameras, and of course the durability concerns when you buy a used foldable all make me say no. But let's say you're watching this video on a Z Flip 3. Should you upgrade? I would say hold off for a bit. Since the Z Flip 6 launches later this summer, you could probably find some crazy trade-in deals through a carrier or even Samsung, and maybe you can even get the Z Flip 6 for free. But what if you don't want to upgrade or you can't find some crazy carrier deals? Well, the Z Flip 3 is still gonna be usable. You're still getting Android 15 later this year, and you're still gonna receive Android security patches for, I'm pretty sure, another year. So if you're currently holding onto the device and it doesn't have any issues like stress cracks or the hinge breaking, and it's getting you through the day just fine, I would say you can hold on to it until it stops being a usable device. But with that, I'm your host Adrian, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.